What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the series. The playstyle we're going over today is long ball, another playstyle that isn't widely used. We went back with Stale Solbakken. You see, not as good proficiency wise as out wide, but still good enough to get in and see what this long ball playstyle is all about. If you don't have a manager like this, a boosted or double boosted manager, you can always go into the standard list and choose a manager there. Obviously, the goal would be to go for the highest efficiency based on how much GP you could have if you go that route, the standard manager list. With that being said, though, there were some pluses with long ball. Again, the only reason these other playstyles aren't being used, which is why I want to go over them, is because the quick counter meta is so strong. The counter playstyle period, that meta is so strong. The press through ball. But with all the beautiful football that can be played, these other playstyles absolutely, can accomplish that for you if you utilize these playstyles correctly, and they may actually be better for you based on how you play. So let's get into what long ball playstyle is all about. So if you didn't watch the out wide playstyle video, then I'll tell you right now, pause, read what the game says about the long ball playstyle, either now or in the game. I strongly suggest it, but for me, I'm just going to go over how this playstyle translates into game. So defensively, you sit on a deep line, meaning your players are going to be way back towards your goal. Not something that I typically like, right? I've said in the previous video, I'll say it again, I like pressuring the opposition, not even allowing them near the dangerous area, near my goal. I don't ever like to invite pressure, but this playstyle invites pressure in the highest amount, right? With the deep line, they're going to have no pressure pretty much all the way up the pitch. If your players have the ball and lose it, they will immediately start tracking back to defend deep in your own area. So I don't like that. But now you've won the ball, and what does your attacking players do? Immediately take off running forward with the idea that you are going to play a long ball. Now, while this creates some excellent runs forward, even if you don't choose a long ball, right, it does create a big gap in your team because your defensive players actually stay home. That's another negative. When you have a team that's spread out like that, the other team can sort of split you in half and win the ball and go right on a counterattack, and you could be low on numbers because it gets a little dicey in the midfield area, right? We know where the strikers and wingers are going to go. We know the defenders are sitting home, but you'd have to be really smart with how you utilize those central midfield players. If you have, let's say, a box-to-box and that player takes off going forward as well, you lose the ball, you could very easily in this setup be caught on a counterattack with low numbers back. And your defense will be sitting so far back that your attacking players, since they're taking off forward, they just won't be able to recover before, the opposition is able to create some kind of opportunity on you and hopefully not score, but that's the dangers of this. The good part about it is, though, that you have a lot of numbers immediately rushing forward. So if you are a good passer, you can pick out the right pass and the right player to pass to. You're going to send players through on goal a lot, and the opposition will many times be caught with low numbers back themselves. So it really comes down to how well you keep the ball. If you lose the ball a lot, this probably isn't a play style that you want because you're going to be caught outnumbered by the opposition a lot in the attack. If you're able to keep the ball well and find good passes, then you would like this because you're going to have a lot of numbers shooting forward when the opposition is in a vulnerable state. So here's how I set up my team. You can set up yours however you'd want, but I'll tell you the reason why I chose this. Once my defense wins the ball, you see here I have a block of 4 attackers with 2 wingers playing right off my 2 strikers, because if I do play a long ball in the air, I want my 2 strikers to be able to knock it down to the wingers who will be running off their shoulders. Then they can either go in for a chance themselves or go in and cross the ball to one of the other strikers. So that's the knockdown part of it, but you can also play straight through to the onrushing wingers or even the strikers. Then you see, obviously, I have my 4 backs with 3 center backs. Maldini's tucked in as almost a wingback / center back, 1 defensive mid in Gattuso, but Pirlo, you could absolutely put a second defensive mid there. I have him as a central midfielder. Again, the only thing you got to worry with that is that sometimes he's going to take off going forward with the attackers, and you can get caught with just the 5 players back and 1 less central midfielder, or defensive midfielder, I should say. So you got to be careful with that. However, if you're playing that ball up and you don't have that 5th player, and let's say the defense does a good job, that without that fifth player, you don't really have that anchor player to recycle the attack, right? Because your your attackers are all shooting forward and all in a line. So you may even want to have maybe an attacking midfielder instead, sitting in behind, just to have someone that's not, if you're in the attack and you lose the ball, someone that's not straight in line with the other players, right? Because you have four players just shooting forward, you lose the ball, and all four are burned. There's nobody behind, either Gnabry or Kohler or Haaland or Cruyff. So you could change it up and maybe bring like Cruyff behind Haaland and Kohler. And there also, when you distribute, if it's not a long ball, you don't have to go directly through or 2 feet and have really no one to lay it back to, right? If you play an attacking midfielder behind instead of wingers, you could have play to feet to strikers, then have a player to lay it back to, almost like an up back, and then maybe through to Gnabry or through to one of your strikers. So that's just some ideas, but the biggest thing is, just because it's long ball does not mean you have to go long ball. You can absolutely have a player closer to your defenders that you play to feet to, but make no mistake about it, if that player is in more of an attacking role, that player too will start shooting forward when you get the ball, right? They'll be running away from you. Some players have a problem with that, right? They'll win the ball, they'll play it, the players are running away, they play it behind them, and next thing you know, the opposition's coming at you on the counterattack. So you have to get used to that part. It's a lot of through balls are leading the player, even if it's not all the way up to those front four attackers. Like I said, even if you have maybe, like, let's say Pirlo, he's starting to make that run forward, you just play a shorter through ball to Pirlo's feet, then Pirlo can act as sort of the quarterback and get it to one of the four players up. Not to mention, there's always super cancel, meaning if you don't want to go through, they're all running away, you play a ball to feet, immediately super cancel, and you can come to the ball and receive it to feet, because as we know in eFootball, there is no button to or command to pull runs back or even make runs go forward. They're going to be running based on how your tactics are set up, and with the playstyle long ball, they will be running forward. Therefore, it's pretty straightforward how to utilize this, but it's one of those things that's easier said than done. If you can make it work, you can absolutely make this OP, particularly in the attack. But if you struggle, it will be a nightmare. I mean, you will get pummeled. I would say if you're a newbie, if you want to use this, maybe events or even just the AI league in the lower levels, right? And you're just going to have to work at it. Maybe some players will be naturally better at this than others, but I would say that as easy as it seems, it's definitely a tough play style to get used to, especially learning how to defend when you inevitably give up the ball. Hopefully not a lot, but when you do sometimes give up the ball and you have low numbers back, you're going to have to learn how to keep the opposition at bay and not just give up goals every time you lose the ball and give up a counterattack. So those are the two things you got to get used to: how to properly utilize all those players shooting forward, and what formation to go into, and what positions to use, what kind of players and play styles, or maybe go no play styles, and then how to defend properly when those times come that you do lose the ball and you're outnumbered in the back. So that's about everything you need to know for the long ball play style. Let me know in the comment section if you're going to utilize it. I know I'm going to be continuing to experiment with this in every play style and just see how everything works out. Keep grinding, keep having fun, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.